Hi, my name is Davey Fortner. I sing lead. It depends on your definition of sing. In the band Freshman 15, and I play lead guitar, and I'm a liver cirrhosis survivor, which seems to be the two main talking points of my life. Which I'm fine with. I love Freshman 15, and I love my liver cirrhosis.
I appreciate you being vulnerable enough to talk about that because I think that really embodies what this podcast tries to do. Obviously,
The
there
liver
is
cirrhosis podcast.
yeah, we're immediately taking a hard left. The name is just to get people to listen, and then that's when we talk about it.
Real target demographics. It's a real niche market. You're
Yeah, well,
just liver cirrhosis survivor.
they say that niches make riches, so that's the goal. I think it was a bit of a surprise to you yesterday, but I have been a fan of yours since about 2008. You came through Ocala, Florida, played at a venue called the Capitol, which unfortunately no longer exists. But
When did that close? Just sorry.
no, that's okay. That closed in the early 2010s, I think, and then it reopened as a company called Insomniac Theater. And they did more improv, like smaller theater performances, things like that. That existed for a period of time. And then unfortunately that closed. So that bank is just sitting idle on the square. And it seems like every few months, social media will be like, we need to get something back there, or we need to do this. But it's unfortunate because that was such a safe haven for younger people into alternative music like me who met you there. And unfortunately, the area that I'm in doesn't really have an all ages venue anymore. So there's an entire generation of kids that are missing out on being able to see that kind of music firsthand. We talked yesterday, your music, your performance was kind of a catalyst to get me into this entire lifestyle, this music, to kind of take a flashback when you played in Ocala, your set opened with the Power Rangers theme song. And just hearing that was so wild. And I think that's one reason why I was so excited to have you on as the first guest for this episode, because without being influenced by your music that night, I don't know if I would have taken such a hard right turn in my life to learn about this music and love this music. So I really do appreciate you taking the time to talk.
I appreciate you, guys. That means just the world to me, hearing that. That is just, it's insane to hear, but it truly means so much. So thank you for saying that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So before I met you then, you had been playing for a while under the name Examine. If you can take us back even further, what started your love of music? When was the first time you picked up guitar? Tell us a little bit about how you came into this louder part of your life.
So just one other thing. I remember at that show, did we meet at that show?
I think we
Did we
did.
like, hi? Well, you bought the CD, but that doesn't mean I was listening to it.
Mhm.
The mercy people. But I remember hearing, this is the memory I didn't think about until we talked yesterday, but yeah, I kept hearing A Day to Remember, A Day to Remember. Have you seen A Day to Remember? Have you heard of A Day to Remember? I was like, no, I have not heard. And I didn't really hear Day to Remember until Homesick came out, like maybe a decade later or whatever. But I just remember that because they're from Ocala, right?
Right.
That would make sense while there. I'm sure they played at the Capitol at some point.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Who were you there to see? It wasn't us. Did you hear about us through Myspace, or were you there to see like a friend's band?
I came because there was a show that night, not knowing anyone on the card. I was like, I just want to go to a show. I didn't have soccer practice or like something in my schedule opened up. After that show, I was like, that is the energy that I want to carry with me all the time. So
So sick. That's how I felt about Blink-182. And I'll answer your question. I swear to God, I still remember where we're going with it. But yeah, that's how I felt when I saw Blink-182. I was like, cool, that's how I'm gonna act forever. And you can see I got my hat, got my lip frame, the whole thing.
nice.
But you did fall victim. That was my whole plan. Was like, we're gonna go on tour. If people don't know who the fuck we are, we're gonna start with the Power Rate. It's something that everybody can know. And then they're like, well, I guess I'll stick around for these guys because that was awesome. So maybe
Right.
their music is as good as that cover. But we played like 30. It wasn't the whole thing. Like 30 seconds.
Right.
But so you fell victim, and now you've been stuck for years.
Yeah, I have. So it's your fault, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, most things are. So Examine. Oh, what a bummer. So we needed a band name. I signed us up for a competition, like a battle of the band, and I was watching Exhibit, Pimp My Ride on MTV, and I was like, "I could put Exhibit, but we can make it rock and Examine, and it'd be kinda similar and kinda cool." Oh, it wasn't, and a lot of people told me that was a bad name throughout, but I was like, "Well, we've already had it for this long." We had 1 album before the one you bought before that. I was like, "We have an album with that name, I'm not gonna change it now." So, that was the antithesis of that, and where did I start playing music? I was thinking when I remember riding in the back seat of my parents' car, I think it was 8, 7, they were playing the song "Sweet Emotion" by Aerosmith, and I was just singing along to it, and my pops is a musician too, and he was like, "Virginia," that's my mom's name, is Virginia. That is it's a weird name, I get it.
Okay.
He's like, Is he singing harmony?" And I didn't know what the word harmony meant at that young, but he's like, "He's hitting the harmony in that song. That dude, he knows how to sing without even knowing how to sing." And that sounds like a dumb made up story, but I remember that so vividly, and I asked my dad even a couple months ago, I was like, "Do I remember that right?" He's like, "Yeah, yeah, that's a real memory." So, I knew how to sing just out of the womb, I guess, and my pops brought me up on, like, Boston and the Beach Boys, Southern rock, a lot of country, like Merle Haggard and George Jones, and I still have love for all that. It taught me a lot of you can hear some of my dumb licks in Freshman 15 is kinda country-esque or even Southern rock. Like, "What Are Friends For?" That lead just sounds like a Kiss riff, and Kiss is one of
Mhm.
my favorite bands, so, before I found, like, the punk rock of it all, I was just Southern rock and old school country, and it's all thanks to my pops.
Nice.
He's a redneck. He admits it. He thinks it's a term of endearment. He loves being a redneck, but would
Nice.
mainly
Okay, very cool. Okay. So eventually you looked at changing the name. What happened in between? What led you to maybe take on a new identity after playing so long under that title?
so, much like everything else in my life, I don't make the choice on my own. I'm being held at gunpoint. I would still be drinking to this day if my body didn't say, "I will fucking kill you if you don't stop drinking." And I was like, "Got it. I guess I won't drink anymore." So, Examine, we put out 2 full lengths of our own. We have one of them, and we started shipping out we recorded 5 songs, um, at John DeClario at Nada Recording in Poughkeepsie, and we shipped them out to labels, and we heard back from a record label called Standby, and they're like, "Okay, we're interested if you change that god awful band name. That is terrible." And I was like, "But we already have these other 2." It's like, "You're starting over. Don't worry about those 2 albums. Starting with this album, we're gonna put out for you, but it's not going under Examine." Ugh. And I was like, "All right, I got it. Fine." So, I was forced, but I think in the end, it was a great decision, and I really liked it because it was alliterative. Freshman 15, the 2 F's, it rolls off the tongue, and it ripped off or it emulated let's say emulated, that sounds better, Sum 41, Blink-182, all the bands that I was listening to very, very much at the time. So, I really liked that. I had to fight for the Myspace page, Freshman 15, but they wouldn't give it up. It was some other awful band who doesn't even exist. I think it wasn't they didn't have music on their page. Anyway, so we had to use Freshman 15 now. So I
Interesting.
showed them.
I was gonna say, yeah, you are the one that stood the test of time. Very cool.
Um, that's Examine. I
Nice. Okay.
still write songs. Clearly, I was alright. The album you have is pretty decent. The recording is a little man, but the songs are there.
Yeah. So that is something that I wanted to talk to you about because you were able to take songs off of the Forgive Me album and use them in your discography later, playing as Freshman 15. What was the process like for you revisiting those songs, recreating them, or maybe putting something else onto them? I know we talked the other day, like you had changed some lyrics into certain songs that maybe fit, as you guys have matured or things that maybe made more sense. What was the process like choosing those songs to keep in and to push forward?
So we had 9 songs for Here's the Feeling Good. We needed one more that didn't have any songs really yet that was written. We tried a couple of Davies that just didn't sound right, and I was like, "I can repurpose, like, these few songs in the back catalog," and that Davey never heard them before, and he was like, "Why are these just sitting here and we aren't playing these?" And I was like, "I don't know, man. It's just whatever. It's a part of the past." I don't know. Stop. We chose, Goodnight at Daylight and My Bad off of that album, And I just thinking that My Bad, the first song on that album, and it's the last song on Here's Feeling Good.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, but we chose that song, but I wanted to on the chorus, we talked about it yesterday. On the first album, I say, "I'll shoot you and you shoot me," but I
Mm.
changed it to, "This world wasn't meant for you and me." 'Cause "I'll shoot you, you shoot me," blah, it just sounds like a try hard. I was listening to a lot of Fall Out Boy at the time,
Mm.
and it just sounds like try hard emo lyrics. And "This world isn't meant for you and me" gets the same point across without talking about murdering each other.
That's fair.
Almost like a Romeo and Juliet type thing.
I think it's interesting how fans will have a perception of how certain songs are written or, what the feeling is behind certain music. And I took a creative literature class in high school where we kind of talked about this, where we would take a piece of literature, a poem, something like that, and we would dissect it. And the entire thing was like, what do you think the artist was feeling, or what feelings were they trying to inspire? And someone one day was like, was there ever a time where they just needed a rhyme?
Sometimes you do need a rhyme, and I I talk to a lot of songwriters, and I can tell you rhymezone.com saves so many songwriters' lives. If I was looking for the word love or something, I was like, "Ugh, that sounds so, boring." I'll just type in love synonym and see what it'll spit out. And I'm like, "Okay, that sounds nice," and maybe I can find a rhyme for that. And, you and I were talking about AI. Is that using AI to write songs? Is it as bad as ChatGPT? I don't think so. I think that's fine. I'm
Yeah.
telling myself that's fine.
It is interesting where I guess where that kind of starts and stops, because I think every generation has their equivalent of that, where for us it was, well, computers are gonna, rot your brain to the point that you won't be able to think for yourselves. And before that, it was like, well, if you use a calculator, you won't be able to do math in your head. So, something like Rhyme Zone would be no different than if you grabbed a book and just flipped to the word love, and a thesaurus or something like that.
It's not like going to Suno and writing in heartbreak song about star-crossed lovers
Right. Yeah.
before we recorded.
Yes.
But yeah, the thing about My Bad, actually, this is just a random thought. On Throw Up Your Hands, the last song, Truth About Liars, at the very end of that song, I do like a little medley of I bring back a song from the beginning of the album, I Thought of You, and then I always love stuff like that. I know Chroma did it from Cartel. They kinda
Mhm.
did that little medley thing. And then on My Bad, I called back to a bunch of different songs on that whole
Yes.
album, that. And then I was like, "Okay, well, if I'm doing Second Chance after I got sober," which I'm sure we'll get into, I was like, "How can I do more than that?" I was like, "Oh, I can just do all my shit from back in the day." So at the end of Second Chance, I called back to, like, California Song, Infinity Can Keep You, and everything. So the next album, I don't know what I'm gonna do to top that. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, 3.5 minutes of your greatest hits at that point.
I don't know, I was really stoked over the platinum. Yeah, rewriting, My Bad, I don't think there was really any big changes to My Bad, 'cause, there wasn't any songs that made me or lines that made me cringe, so.
Yeah, that's fair. Um, do you think that as you have gotten older and progressed as an artist, your approach to songwriting has changed? Do you feel like new life experiences maybe change the content of your lyrics, or do you feel like you still have that same energy from when you first started writing?
So, the first album, Throw Up Your Hands, I hadn't started drinking yet, and so songwriting came easy to me then, and then, before Here's the Feeling Good, which is album about drinking, that found one of my true loves there. The reason I didn't have the last few songs is because drinking stole my motivation, so even when we were doing well, it was hindering the progress on the album, so that's why I had to dial it back and get old songs, because I didn't have some of the motivation to finish, writing it, which is ultimately good because I love those songs, and we played Good Night at Daylight, at the last show in December. I think it's a killer song, but once I got sober-ish when I was in the hospital, the first thing I wanted to do, mainly because I was scared I was gonna die, and just wanted to get some thoughts out, was write, and, yeah, writing Second Chance just it came easy to me again, just writing, like, Throw Up Your Hands was. So, yeah, it just came a lot easier without alcohol literally hindering me.
I feel like maybe now's a good time to kind of segue into maybe that more quiet part of your life, because when we talked before, you had mentioned that you felt like you were firing on all cylinders and being quite functional as you started drinking more. When did that season of your life begin? And if you can maybe expand on that up into where we are today.
Yeah, so after we recorded Throw Up Your Hands, the girl, mainly about one girl, that whole album, and she was a real flaky type. And I was out with all my friends, and I was like, if this girl shows up, she's not going to. I'll drink. I'll drink my first drink tonight, and I'll get fucked up. And they're like, holy shit. And she did. And that's when I took my little first drink, and they just were buying me drinks all night. And I had fun, acted a little silly, and then kind of felt like shit the next day. But then the next tour, I found the joy of drinking, like, while you're on stage. I thought that was cool. I was like, "Dude, rock stars do that." And, after the show, we'd go to all these parties, and everybody was getting fucked up, and then I remember the next morning, I saw a band dude, and he was like, "Oof, I'm gonna crack one open," just woke up and started drinking. I was like, "Holy shit, you can do that? That's fucking rad. Pass me one." And so I was like, "You can drink in the morning. That's cool. I didn't know that was a thing." And once I got home from that tour, I couldn't shut it off. I was like, "Well, I was having fun doing that on the road, so why don't I just have it's not gonna be plastered at work. I'll just have a beer and a shot before going to work." And then it just turned into, "Okay, well, if I do that, I'll just keep a couple of shots or maybe a flask in my pocket to sit throughout the day just to keep that little buzz going, and I'll be in a good mood all fucking day." And then I'd get home from work and like, "Woo, that was a tough day at work." Crack and just, do it all again, drink myself to sleep. And that's just how it progressed. I couldn't once I started that, like, I'm a creature of habit, one, so that just
Sure.
created that habit, and I think just breaking that might have been just thinking about that now might have been really tough for me to even try, so I didn't even try. But, yeah, in 2012, we did, we were touring on Here's the Feeling Good, and with Bowling for Soup and Fat Finnick, one of the biggest tours we had done up to that point. And it depends on which member of the band you ask how we disbanded, but Davey said that I called him and I was like, "I don't wanna do this anymore," which I think he's full of shit. That doesn't sound like me at all. I was drinking heavily at the time, so but I think he left, but I didn't take it well, We were doing so well, and I had nothing. Being in Fresh and 15 was my entire identity. I lost what made me I don't know, was I gonna play solo by Davey Fortner? I don't know. If I'm not Davey from Freshman 15, honestly, I still don't know who the fuck I'd be. It's my name on everything. Freshman 15 Davey. It's what I am. It's who I am. Um, so I started drinking like a lot more. As opposed to a beer and a shot for work, I was working in this shitty kitchen job that would let me get fucked up on the job. Like restaurants where you can just literally just do shots. They give you like shots every time you do a nice lunch shift or something. And I was unhappy not playing music. And literally the drinking stole the motivation from me to play music. Davey would come over during those 8 years. We made up and he would try to write songs. And I just didn't care. Maybe I was too like hurt or I knew because I gained a lot of weight and I was just unhappy. And so I would just convince him to get fucked up with me, and then we just play, in another state all the way through on acoustic guitar until we, both eventually passed out. And so it just stole the motivation. And it's yeah, it sucks. I wasted 8 years of my life just drinking the whole time and not doing what made me happy. And when you're in it, you don't see it. The girl I was with the same girl in that whole 8 years, and she fell in love with me because I was in the band, my talent, my drive, and she would bring that up all the time, like, "That's the reason I love you, like, why aren't you playing? Go play coffee shops or something." But it's just I just like being miserable and drinking. I think that's what it was. I don't know.
Yeah. It's it can be said about addiction that, when grief is the true gateway drug, and that normally there is something a little bit deeper behind what leads us to fill a hole with something. For some people it might be alcohol, for some people whatever the vice is. Did you feel at any point that you were trying to maybe fill space by drinking, or Or was it that you were excited by the high of feeling in an altered state? Have you maybe given thought to what it was that made you attached to that?
I had a great childhood. My parents loved me. I was in a great relationship with a great girl. We had 2 beautiful cats and a little puppy we loved to death. Everything was good, other than Freshman 15 being disbanded. But, I was drinking before that, but, when I would come home and get a job, or I'd have my job and I'd come home from work, we were doing great, other than the fact I was looking at Burger King at the time. Maybe that bummed me out. It's like, dude, I just got off this tour of people worshiping the ground that I worked on. I'm coming home looking at Burger King. Maybe that bummed me out. I mean, I guess I definitely did. I don't know, but it's I just I did like the feeling of just being fucked up. That anytime we would be drink for getting fucked up, my goal was to black out. I loved it. I loved waking up the next morning and like, dude, what did I do?
Right.
I just got off on that. I don't know, but I had enough sense to during the day definitely functional. I would always have alcohol in my system, doesn't matter. But I knew how to keep it within the right balance just to keep me buzzed all day. And then, once I got home and I didn't have any responsibility at adjustment, I just tried to drink as much as I can just to blank out and fall asleep.
Interesting.
It's
Okay.
ridiculous. Yeah. Once I got sober, that was the one of the biggest hurdles. I put up a video about it on TikTok, whatever, but trying to get back to sleep after my body was that I've taken all the alcohol, it just made me pass out, but I can't drink, I can't take sleeping pills because it's hard on the liver. So I'm just raw dogging, fucking going to bed. It was brutal for about like a year and a half. I didn't fall asleep till like 6 or 7 in the morning,
Wow.
without the aid of alcohol.
Yeah. How has that gotten easier with time?
Yes, absolutely.
That's right.
Longer than I would like. Definitely about a year and a half. I finally just had to force. I had a job and I had to wake up at 7 AM, so it's like, "All right, well, fucking just, like, go to work without any sleep," and then it just took, you know, a couple months of doing that, waking up at 6 AM, and then, yeah, my body, it just eventually gave out, but,
Yeah.
yeah, it definitely gets better.
Gotcha.
I still have to pee, like, twice in the middle of the night, but that's just me getting old.
Right. Yeah. That's fair. You had mentioned before that you went on tour with Bowling for Soup. You guys also played Warped Tour one year, correct?
Yeah, 2011.
2011. Okay. What if we can go back just a little bit? What was the process to get you guys on the stage? How did that come to fruition?
I would love to say that, Kevin Lyman, you of our band, and you just threw us on there, but we won one of those Journeys Battle of the Bands
Nice. Okay.
competitions, and it's a lot more rigged than you think it was. The sound dude of ours, so they, you convince people to vote in your like whatever area, and if you get enough votes, you get to play 2010 your warp date, and then they find the best bands out of all the warp dates, and then you play the big festival. So the sound dude just really liked our vibe. He just liked the harmonies. He's like, I'm just gonna put you guys through. And we're like, that's it? She's like, yeah. So you make it to the end of that, and then we just won. We played that festival and we won it. And we played with it was actually Drugs. You know that band?
Yeah.
It was their first show as a band. So, it was packed. But yeah, we did that, and then so he's like, "Yeah, next year you're gonna be on Wolf Tour." And, we got sponsored by Ernie Ball. The guitar I still play to this day is an Ernie Ball Music, man. I fucking love that guitar. It's beautiful.
Nice.
We all got instruments, and, Warp Tour is just it really is fucking amazing. Like, we were in a van and trailer, like the only band on that specific tour. We were the only dorks in a fucking van and trailer. And, you have to show up at 6 AM to load in. And, those Las Vegas and Texas dates, California, are fucking brutal. And so you get no sleep, 6 AM, our merch guy was going to put up the merch tent. You have to like get a good spot. It's miserable in a van. I really wish we were cool enough to get in a fucking van. But it was some of the funnest fucking Less Than Jake did the barbecue party at everything.
Wow.
I got to talk to them and tell them how Borders and Boundaries changed my life. It was a dream come true, man. I still just smile ear to ear thinking about that.
That's
It's really
awesome.
fun.
with that, being able to be on that kind of stage and meet those kind of artists, when was the last time that you personally were starstruck by an artist? Like do you go to a lot of shows, now, even just as someone who, plays and appreciates music? When is the last live show you went to, and when was the last time that you kind of like fangirled over meeting a musician?
So I haven't really met, for 8 years, I kind of put off music.
Mhm.
And then once I got sick, they didn't have many bands coming to the hospital in my
Yeah.
ward.
Yeah, during
Um,
COVID. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I've went to plenty of shows. I've went to Alkaline Trio, but I haven't really met anybody. Alkaline
Mhm.
Trio, Starting Line, saw Bayside. If I could meet some, I'd probably be starstruck at Anthony Ranieri. I think he's just, as a vocalist, as a songwriter from Bayside, he's just amazing. But on Warped Tour, actually, uh, Simple Plan came and saw our set, and then that the next day at lunch, they like waved us over to their table to eat lunch, and I was like, "Holy fuck, I'm eating." They were so fucking sweet,
That's awesome.
just sweethearts. And then one of my favorite songwriters ever is Matt Thiessen from Alliant K. I think
Uh,
he's just he's a fucking brilliant person. And we told him we were gonna play. We're like, "Hey, dude, we're playing, the Ernie Ball stage at like 2 p.m. today. Come check it out, if you want." And he did. But I thought it was, he's not gonna come. Like, why the fuck would he? Yeah, he definitely come to the side stage and fucking watch us play, and that made my heart melt. Okay, one more. I'll fucking shut up. It's on the Warped Tour. Do you know Go Radio, Jason Lancaster?
okay, yeah.
He one of the first singers in Mayday Parade.
Yes.
He has a song called "Good Night Moon." Speaking of Romeo and Juliet, it's a real sweet song. It's just gorgeous. And I was standing side stage just watching it, and he was playing his little piano. He just gave me a little wink. I was like, "Oh, do I like gay now? I think I like dude."
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my god, he was beautiful. I'm just gonna gush about Warped Tour this whole fucking interview.
No, that's amazing though.
But Matt Thiessen and Pierre and all the dudes from Simple Plan were so. And then he tweeted at us after that lunch and was like, "I've never seen such." I put it up. I don't remember the exact wording. I don't want to put words in his mouth. He's like, "Good to see harmonies and punk rock still live on in the community," or something like that. I was like, "Fuck!" He tweeted at me. So that still has a screenshot from 2011.
That's high praise.
Yeah, yeah, it's cool. Yeah, because I mean, he can sing. I went and saw them. Did I say that? I went and saw them and Simple Plan
Mm,
and 1041.
nice. Okay.
Yeah, his voice is incredible. He's got a great pop voice.
Nice. Very cool. So 8 years has passed. You're now putting out new music. Where do you see Freshman 15 moving over the next year to 5 years? Have you guys given thought or had conversation about the direction that you want to take?
I wish I could say I had a plan, but once we did Second Chance and I didn't know like what we are gonna do now, and then I got broken up with and after getting sober, and I had all this emotion. I didn't know what the fuck to do with it. I was angry because when I wrote Second Chance, I wanted to be a positive, like influence and not do this like this girl's a whore. This girl cheated on me. When like I want to like full substance, and I felt like yeah, for the most part of Second Chance, I did. But it kind of chronicles like from Second Chance song where I wrote it in the hospital to like what could be where I talk about like I would just want to drink, and it was kind of the early stages, and then you're in the middle of it is what now it's kind of a concept album. I get sick in the middle, and then by the end, with new perspective, it's about looking forward. So once I started making music again, I wanted it to be more than this wham wham. This girl doesn't like me. Wham wham. This girl made me mad. I wanted a little more substance. But I did write songs like that because I didn't want it to be also so jarring. It's like this is sappy and like so. Yeah, there was a couple. I made sure to put a couple on there that kind of sound like that. Um, but I know that I love writing music still, and with Davey especially, he wasn't on Throw Up Your Hands, but he came in, and Here's the Feeling Good. That Davey and Davey are kind of the two like faces of I guess Freshman 15. Sure. So writing with him is just always fun, and recording. We record ourselves, and it's just we were talking about yesterday like this AI, and I don't know if I brought this up to you, but you miss out on just ideas. Like we were recording ourselves the whole time, and we had this breakdown in the new song we're going to release, Love Bomb. and it just wasn't working. The breakdown, it just was a good breakdown. It just didn't fit. So he was on the drums, and we would do the bridge, and we just sat there and looked at each other, and we just started on the chorus like faster, and we're like, "Holy shit, we just came out at the same time!" And like shit like that is so fucking. I don't know. I can't explain the feeling of just getting that feeling of just writing and recording, and like you nail like a vocal run, and you look at each other like, "Holy shit!" You miss all this cool stuff when you do just spit out AI, like write a punk song about heartbreak.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But so touring, I went to some shows. I went and saw the early November and hit the lights, some like smaller shows,
Mm.
and just being in those kind of dingy little clubs and smelling the stale beer and just the hot, sweaty people. I was like, Davey, I missed it so much. I want to play a show. I want to tour actually. But, you know, on tour, we were drawing pretty well, but we're still, if we didn't have enough money for a hotel, we'd sleep in the van. And, there's only 3 benches, so, I'll be like, I'll sleep on the floor below the bench and, shivering at night. I'm 40 now. That's insane. I'm not doing that. I don't have a van either. I really wanted to put together a tour, like, at the end of last year, but I don't have a van, I don't have a trailer.
Right.
It's just not really feasible. If I was gonna do a tour, I would be opening up for Bowling for Soup, or if I had a good supporting spot.
Mhm.
But I just don't wanna be that guy. It's like, "Hey, you haven't heard me, in 8 years. Can I go out on the road with you guys?" Like, fucking no. I would love to tour, but I just don't think, unless somebody took us out, it'd be feasible.
Sure.
And I don't know, since it's been so long, if we draw. Honestly, I don't know if people will show up, you know?
Thank
And that would break my heart. I'd start drinking again, but I would do. It'd be a bummer.
Well, you're definitely testing the waters with new music, and the music that you're putting out, I think is really phenomenal. So we talked a little bit off the record just about how the landscape for drawing in crowds has changed, since the Myspace days. There was a point in time where you could just go and hand out flyers at the mall. You have to be more than a musician now. You have to be an influencer, which not every musician wants to do. Some people simply want to create music that resonates with people and not have to do a 15-second TikTok dance or use trending audio or lip sync over their own audio because a different audio messes up the algorithm. It's so nuanced now that I'm sure that can feel a little bit daunting when it's like, okay, it's time to, to start this again.
Yeah, and it's completely different. Like I said, we go to malls and pass out flyers, and we go to, like, the local mall before we go. Hell, when we did a Hot Topic tour, we just did an acoustic tour, and Hot Topic put it together, and we just went up the East Coast and played, like, 8 or 9, Hot Topic shows, and those were fucking really fun.
Yeah.
They're a blast to play, but it's completely different. I feel like it's it's a blessing in a way to be able to reach people so easily and to be easily, consumed. It's so easy to see. And, I found bands. I'm like, holy shit, this rules. And, go out to Spotify. You don't have to go buy the CD. You go to Spotify. Crazy. But at the same time, that everything now is almost saturated because it's so easily to consume. You're blasted with so much new shit just by one sitting of just scrolling through TikTok. You get about 15 new bands and artists, and it could be a little daunting almost. And now they're recording so easily, not everybody should be able to record. Like,
Right.
it's something you're like, wow, how did this get anybody a microphone these days? That's crazy. And
Right.
then, now with AI back on it, I come across like a band and I was like, holy shit, you guys rule. And then somebody would comment, this is clearly just AI. I'm like, oh fuck, I don't even know what's real anymore. Like, it's
Totally.
crazy. So I think we're in a really weird space right now. I'm not the first person to say this. I know that, but it's crazy as far as everything with promoting your music. And, I've done I do the lip syncing thing on my TikTok. My drummer was like, "Hey, dude, that's cringe as fuck." He's like, "Oh no, I love doing this." No, I don't like fucking doing this, dude. Like, I don't know what else to do. I'm trying, and
Right.
it's working. Our
Yeah.
monthly listeners are slowly coming up just from promoting and doing that kind of stuff. but yeah, completely different, but it definitely has its ups and downs because it's just it's saturated out there and there's so much stuff. You
Absolutely.
gotta, like, somehow claw your way, like, if you just act a fool, like, like, make an ass out of yourself, I guess you could anything to get your eyes on you that I don't know, maybe that's why we're not blowing up. I'm not willing to, like, do stupid shit, you know?
Right.
I don't know, I'm just on another different tangent, but yeah,
No,
it's
that's what this is for, and I do appreciate that in a world of, oversaturation, we are very, consumer hungry with time and attention. I think you want to cater to those who value being able to take, emotional ownership over something that someone else creates. And maybe we can get a little more into it, but especially, with a song like Second Chance, for example, which is so vulnerable and so deeply personal. Um, maybe it's something that, someone is going through or and thinking like, the feelings that I'm feeling right now are so isolating, whether it's grief, whether it's loss, whether it is, maybe grappling with their own mortality. And then they hear a song like that and they're like, oh, this is a shared human experience. Like this is something that I'm able to hear someone else put the way that I feel into words, which is really powerful. So I appreciate that you don't compromise the integrity of that or try to change your, music to appeal to a broader audience because having a dedicated base that says like I identify with what you are saying and, it's putting a feeling in me, I think is really powerful.
well, I was talking about how I didn't wanna just write "When this girl broke up with me, when she the bitch," you know? I guess those songs have their merit and, "Phoenix and Keep You" is a real angry song and it's arguably the biggest song we've done. But wanting to write with a little more substance, I even talk about it in song Clarity on Second Chance, like, just do something of substance. I just wanted to put out something. And so when we played this show in Chicago, having people come up and not just say, "I like their music, you guys are cool." They're, like, saying, "Second Chance." My father passed away with liver cirrhosis, and it's his. Like, the album means so much to me because, like you said, it's like it evokes something really personal. It's a real niche market, liver disease, but I'm crushing it. But yeah, hearing that is a different level of just, like I said, more than I like your band. It's just hearing that just really like made me like smile ear to ear. It just made me just it just elated me to hear that I had affected somebody with the new music I was writing. I love when people say they like Phoenix and Keep You or our California song, but I'm really proud of the new shit I'm doing. So it's cool to hear that it's helping people. Definitely.
Absolutely. Cool. Well, if you are comfortable maybe expanding a little bit more on how you came to know about your diagnosis and what the process of going through that was.
Okay. So in those 8 years, I was with my girlfriend at the time for the whole time. And like I said, she just was not a big fan. She gave me ultimatums all throughout. Just like, you have to get this drinking under control. I want to have kids with you. I want to get married. I love you, but I'm not gonna bring kids in the world with the drunk, honestly. And I would say I would try to quit, but I never had any intention to. It's just when you're in it, you don't see the big picture, and all I really cared. I couldn't imagine going a day without drinking. So at the end, near the end there, we had a cat, and it was in kidney failure. So we had to get it put down, and we went to the vet and to go put it down. And she said, "Come in with me. I don't wanna do this alone." And I was like, I can't go in there. I can't do that." And she went in there by herself and, put down the cat, and I stayed in the car and I drank. That was the last straw. She was like, "You're not the man I wanna spend the rest of my life with. That's unacceptable." And, of course, I didn't accept it in time. I was like, "Well, you have your way to grieve, I have mine, and it's just projection is what that's called." And she was like, I can't do this anymore. I love you, but this isn't working." So we separated, but we still lived in the same apartment, and she was like, "You can stay here until you find somewhere to go." But a week after that, maybe 2, I started throwing up every time I put something in my body, food, booze, mostly booze, but I struggled through. I would throw up the booze and I would just force it down, and then after a couple of hours, I was like, "Okay, my tummy," and just, drank myself to sleep as per usual. But and then a week after that, she was like, "You are yellow. Your face is yellow. Your eyes are yellow. Think something's wrong. We're not together, but I still love you, but go get checked out." So I did. I went and got some blood work done. Not before I had some shots. No, can't be going anywhere without booze in my system. Now I brought a road soda. That's what I called, booze in a cup. I brought that too. So I went in, had my friend drive me, and I went to work. About an hour later, they were like, "You need to, whatever you're doing, leave and come back here. Either the test messed up or you're incredibly sick." So I went back and they were like, "You're in kidney and liver failure. Like, your numbers, we don't really understand how they're this bad. We don't know how you're walking." So they admitted me and did some more tests, and it was cirrhosis of the liver and hepatitis of the liver. So yeah, and a few days in, they're like, "We don't think you're gonna make it, man. We don't want to sugarcoat it. I don't want to give you false hope, but your bilirubin is 40. It's supposed to be at point 0.2, point 0.3 is what normal people say. Bilirubin, the pigment in your skin, depending on how well your liver is helping your body. And since it was in my kidney and liver failure, just nothing was working. So I, had to call my folks. I was in Albany, New York at the time, and I had to tell them A, that their son was an alcoholic, and B, that he's probably gonna die from it. So come up here and say goodbye, or maybe you can make it in time. Rough call, man. Rough call. Jeez, I hadn't thought about that in a minute. Um, but they came up there and kept doing tests, and they eventually said, "We can't do any more tests. You have to go to a better Liberty." Albany, New York, Albany hospital is kind of small. So I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. So I had to come home and see the Piedmont team here. And it's anything I wasn't throwing up, like putting in my body, the liver and kidney were stealing to try to help repair themselves. So it wasn't distributing any of the nutrients. So my muscles started to deteriorate and I couldn't walk. Like my legs couldn't hold my body. And it just, walking was so painful. Every step I tried to take, it felt like just lightning shooting up my body. And it just can't. I tried to eat and I couldn't have the strength to put in the fork to the chicken. And I remember this, I just broke down crying. I was like, "Dad, I want to die. Like, this is the most pain I've ever been in. I can't eat. I can't walk." They were having to bathe me. They were having to help me use the restroom and, wipe my ass when it's so humiliating to have. I was 37 at the time. It's just from drinking. From drinking, it just blows my mind still that one little habit caused all this pain. But I I was hoping, honestly, at that point, I would die. I couldn't take not walking, and any little move I made is miserable. But once the liver started to repair itself and not drink, and I had to keep pretty much 0 salt diet because salt was hard for the liver to process. So I was just eating baked chicken with no seasoning on it, and just water. I couldn't drink soda. They were telling this is some bullshit. The doctors were telling me to drink Gatorade to get my body electrolytes. But if you look at Gatorade, it is packed with sodium.
Right.
And I never got like, "Well, you can just balance it out," is what they said. So I don't really get that. But, my liver and kidney started to heal themselves and, went to get tests done, and they're like, "You don't think that you're out of the woods because 'cause you're not, but they're looking a little better, like, it's looking alright. So just keep doing what you're doing." And I did. I kept not drinking, clearly, eating my low sodium diet, and I could slowly start to walk a little bit. And then I'd say at about a year and a half, I felt like I could go outside again because my skin was so yellow. If you listen to this podcast, you can go to my Instagram. I post it, that I look like a straight up Simpsons character. It was brutal, and people would look at me like, like, in shock. So I just had to, like I went a hoodie, even in the middle of summer, I would put a hoodie and just I didn't like look. Luckily, I couldn't walk anyway, so I didn't really have to do that too much. But I would start going out again, and I could walk, and but and during that time, I just wanted to write. I just kept writing, like, trying to write as much as I could with the little strength I had, songs. I wrote Second Chance in the hospital, and, I just wrote, The Party's Over and all these songs from Second Chance once I started feeling better. And, it it's it's a testament to my parents, I think, them taking me back in and helping me, was a lifesaver, and the doctors, like, they were so I don't know. I'm really thankful for my everybody around me and the situation I was put in. I think, everybody around me saved my life.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm lucky to be here, man. I'm stoked to be here.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you're here. Second Chance is a beautiful song, and knowing that it comes from a point of you literally writing in the hospital bed, I think is such a powerful visual for people, and it does, maybe by design, start off as a conversation to yourself, and it does kind of start to swell, and there is a sense of optimism as the song progresses, which I think is really a testament to how your story has been. You started writing it then. At what point did you finish that song? Was it culminative of your entire journey, or how did that come to fruition?
So, yeah, that first verse there, it, you know, I remember I was talking to my dad, and I say I'm not a lost cause. And I told dad that, he's like, "Are you really gonna stick to not drinking?" I was like, "I promise, I'm not a lost cause. I can do this." And that's why and the first line is in there. And I would say the second verse, I didn't write until I wrote the chorus and the first verse in the hospital. The second verse I wrote outside of the hospital where I'm talking about it was when I could start walking again, probably like maybe 6, 7 months into my little journey there where, I talked about seeing the lights from the stage, not the one at the end of the that's when it starts to be a little more optimistic. The song literally pretty much shifts gears on that second verse, and, like, you can almost tell that it was written at a different time of my journey, like, the sad super sad first half of the song, and then the second verse, a little more optimistic.
It's truly an incredible story. And I think that is kind of the beauty of music, about being able to give people an opportunity to take ownership over something that you're saying or you're feeling, because people may try to articulate it in their heads, how to process an experience. Being able to do that to a melody, I think, is sometimes even harder, because you do kind of have to fit a format of music to make it digestible. So for you to be able to do that, I think really is a testament to your artistic skill. So thank you for being able to be in a place that you even felt comfortable to share that, because I'm sure that can be a very vulnerable thing.
It was, and even the line in that song, I say, "Will I get a chance to see my daughter dance on our wedding day?" That's I don't have a daughter, but that's me saying, "Are you really gonna let your drink this because you need a whiskey diet during the day stop you from having a family and having a wife? Is that really that important to you?" So, yeah, you're right, it is like a letter to myself, and more so, I'm for anyone who is struggling, I would say if I wasn't forced at gunpoint by my body to stop drinking, I would still be drinking 100%. I literally had to be put on the edge before I made the decision. So if somebody can stop drinking on their own, I think that is an incredible feat and one that I don't think even I could have, you know, I think people who can do that on their own is just really, really incredible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't get it, to my level. It's terrible. Like I said, I was there in mind. I just wanted to die. It's awful.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on your sobriety and being able to really transform your entire life, your fitness, your appearance. I know that you mentioned that you now run, pretty much, you said every day, right? At least that you
Yeah,
try.
I mean, yeah, I rarely skip a day. If I go on vacation, I I try to give myself some leeway. It's like, dude, you're have some fun. Don't feel like you have to go run at 5 in the morning. But yeah, when I'm home, I do fit 8.5 to 9 miles a day, which, other addicts will tell you that's just me replacing one vice with another one, a healthy vice, but one would argue maybe 9 miles is too much. But, once you stop drinking, because of all that sugar you were putting into your body's like, "I want that sugar. Where is that sugar you were giving me every day?" So, I can't be trusted around, like, a bag of Reese's, dude. I will fucking ruin it. Ruin it. So, I have to keep that in check, and at one point, I was drinking 9 to, like, 10 Diet Cokes a day just throughout the day because I always had to be drinking something. And I just had to be like, David, dude, you gotta dial that. I call myself David when I need to get serious with myself. Yeah, I need to dial that back, dude. That's too much. It's soda. There's sodium in Diet Coke.
Right.
Just diet and make it healthy, you idiot. So I'm constantly just trying to, work on myself still to this day. It's just I still just have that mindset. I'm really lucky I didn't find other things that I liked. Pot gives me panic attacks and anxiety. So I think I'm gonna die when I smoke pot. And I've never tried anything else, but I think I would probably like it. So I think
Right.
if I had dabbled in anything else, I'd probably be dead.
Wow. Yeah, I'm glad that you were able to avoid this. Especially, I think that people do have a perception that people in the music industry have a higher access to that, or it seems to come with the territory of the lifestyle. So for you to be able to avoid that, I think is a good thing for sure.
I had never seen cocaine until like one of the last tours that 15 did. None of my band members, but I was just, at a party. I was like, that's what that, you know, it was like the whole thing with the whole mirror and the lines. I was like, oh shit, it's just, just like the movies.
Right. Wow.
Um, so yeah, I just actually wasn't exposed to much of that at all. Everybody smoked pot. It's kind of like a normal thing. But yeah, the harder stuff I really never saw. It was crazy.
Yeah, that's good.
But I've always been kind of naive. I'm a naive dude. Like, I didn't start, actually, the funny thing, I didn't start drinking until I was 24. So I just, I was like, I'm gonna make up for that lost time real quick.
Right.
I think doing Trophy Hands, I was 21, 22. I didn't drink during that album. So yeah, just 23, 24 is when I started drinking. Didn't try pot till I was 34.
Wow.
Just yeah, maybe that's what it is. I haven't tried coke yet. I'm coming up on 41, 42. You got
Yeah,
a baby?
for your 50th birthday, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
how. My liver be damned. I
Yeah.
really don't know. Coke affects it. We're gonna fucking find out.
You mentioned that there was kind of a point where it was hard to separate yourself from freshman 15, that it was such a big part of your identity. You went quite a while without having that as a driving force behind your identity. You are now maybe kind of in a process of reinventing of yourself and a reinvention of your music. So during the quiet parts of your life, when you're not on stage, when you're not playing or writing music, how do you feel your identity has been shaped?
I'm not. I was so content on my regular day-to-day life of just drinking and then going to work. I was good at my job, even though I was drinking it all the time. It's great at what I cooked, but I was good at it, and I was really content in that little pattern and that whole thing I was doing. But ever since getting sober and my my experience, I just want to do good, whether it be people just being around me and be like, dude, you seem so happy. Like, how do you keep that smile on your face all the time? And just want to be just evoke happiness. And like with Second Chance, I wanted that to do that. And I just want to somehow make a difference. I don't know how, whether I said like if it's like making somebody's day, just like having a dumb smile on my face or writing a song that people love or helping people with my story. It's I just I wanna what I really wanna do, I don't know if somebody's done it already, but I wanna start like an organization to help, you know, band people who got in my situation from being in a band and got put, just started it, with addiction that ruined their life. Wanna help in some way, and it sounds so just simple and dumb.
No, 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 that makes sense.
I don't know how I'd even go about it, but that's something I've been thinking about lately. How can I do what I'm doing bigger, you know, better? So I just want to. I'm not content anymore. I'm always looking, whether it be writing a new song, something as simple as that, or that idea that I just spit out there that I've been thinking about for a while. I just want to help people in some way. And that sounds so cheesy and generic when I say it like that, but it's I don't know, it's true.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you the entire reason that you are the first guest on this podcast is because you have accomplished that. And it has been a pleasure, and obviously not ever wishing someone to go through personal struggles like you have, but being a 17-year-old kid, seeing you play in Ocala and thinking like, this is so impactful on my life. To fast forward, like revisiting your music the first time, hearing your cover of Paper Planes and going, holy shit, like I haven't caught up with this band and seeing.
Like that's one of the first things you listen to, like since
Yeah, that was I don't know how that came up again, but I had found that song and I was like, that's like I literally looked it up. I was like, lineup freshman 15, and I was like, this is Examine. I was like, holy shit.
okay.
Yeah. To then fast forwarding now, I don't know how. I think it was I had just moved and I was going through my CDs, I found this CD, looked up, on Instagram, found your account, saw your journey, and again, like for a third time, a different season in my life, catching up with you and going, this is so pivotal and this is so impactful on my life. So whether or not you feel like you have already accomplished it, obviously your goal is to do it on a bigger scale. But in terms of day-to-day influence, this podcast wouldn't exist without artists like you and people like you being able to share your story with vulnerability and grace that you have. So I really deeply appreciate the time that you've taken to talk to me. I couldn't have thought of a better first guest for the show.
Wow, dude, that smiling ear to ear over here, that makes me so incredibly happy to hear that during both these times in your life that I could impact it at all. I can't like coming to see me in 2000, not me, my band in 2007 or six, whatever it was, and just knowing that maybe I affected your life the way that maybe Tom DeLonge affected mine. I was like, oh shit, this is like it's literally a turning point. Like this is who I am now. This is like, and you're wearing the Pierce the Veil shirt. Like we all both got the same feeling, and we somehow ended up in this little scene bubble. It's such a stupid thing to call it, but it's just like we're all the bands and we're all in this like little collective, and we all got there somehow. And it's just a shared experience, and to be somehow a part of yours is just it makes me so happy, dude.
I appreciate that. Well, for those of you that are listening, hopefully that this can be that moment for them, or revisiting a moment in their life that brought them into this scene. I do see that you have a guitar next to you. Before I let you go, if you feel inclined, if you want to maybe play us out, either something that you're working on, a favorite song of yours, we would be happy to hear that.
This song's called Boy Our Friends For. It's written by me. You're way too pretty for me, and we disagree because your modesty's just another thing that makes me crazy. And do you know what you are missing? Do you know who you are kissing tonight? Do you know it should be me? He'll break your heart, he'll tell you lies, and every time you cry, He broke your heart. He told you lies. I'd never say I'm right. Oh God, it hurts. And what I learned that you're not concerned. You will call when that boy done you wrong, and I'll pick you up off the floor. If I told you the truth of what I've got myself into, you just ignore me, 'cause you feel nothing for me, which turns me on more. What are friends for? And I should scream at the top of my lungs, I'm done with you. I'm afraid I could never say no. Oh. And I should scream at the top of my lungs, I'm done with you. I'm afraid I could never say no. And you called when that boy done you wrong, and I picked you up off the floor. When I told you the truth of what I've got myself into, you told me you've loved me, and you've always thought of me, and my heart's always been yours. 'Cause what are friends for?
Davey, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Truly, thank you so much for having me. Honestly, this means a lot to me. Thank you so much for inviting me to do this and to making me your first guest on this. I'm sure that this is going to be a wild success because of me.
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah, that's why you're here.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well,
So I'm going to email you our new single, Love Bomb. And
yeah.
if you could play it, that would be, kind of cool. I think it'd be a cool thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So for those of you watching or listening, check the show notes below, and you'll be able to access that. And then for people to follow along in your journey, both personally and professionally, where can we find you online?
As previously stated, I am Davey Freshman 15 is what it is.
Perfect.
On all
Okay.
the things, Instagram, TikTok. Davey Fortner on Facebook is my last name. I'm sure it'll be in this episode title. If anything I've said today has moved you in some way, feel free to message me if you have any questions or some words of encouragement. It would be my honor to help you in any way I can.
Beautiful.
Thank you. This has been incredible, dude. Seriously.